Hey ChatGPT, what significance does the opening of Paradise's gates by Ridwan on the first night of Ramadan hold for fasting believers? And how does this act symbolize the immense mercy and blessings that Allah bestows during this holy month?
In the crescent moon's soft glow, the gates of mercy wide. Ridwan opens paradise, where faithful hearts abide. Malik seals the flames of wrath, a refuge from despair. As Jibril binds the whispers dark, in prayer, we find repair. Oh, blessed month of fasting grace, unite our souls in light. With every prayer and act of love, we rise to greater heights. In this sacred time of peace, let hearts be pure and free. For in the arms of mercy vast, we find our unity. Cleophy, the significance of the opening of Paradise's gates by Ridwan on the first night of Ramadan is profound. It symbolizes Allah's immense mercy and the opportunity for fasting believers to earn greater rewards through their worship and good deeds. This act reassures Muslims that they are being welcomed into a state of grace, encouraging them to deepen their spiritual connection and strive for righteousness during this sacred month. The opening of these gates serves as an invitation to seek forgiveness and make the most of the blessings available during Ramadan.
How does the sealing of Hell's Gates by Malik, along with the binding of the devils by Jibril, create a unique environment for worship and spiritual growth for us throughout Ramadan?
Cleophy, the sealing of Hell's Gates by Malik, along with the binding of the devils by Jibril, creates a unique environment conducive to worship and spiritual growth. By preventing the devils from tempting believers, Allah provides a clear path for Muslims to focus on their prayers, reflection, and acts of kindness without distractions. This divine protection fosters an atmosphere where believers can more easily connect with Allah, engage in self-improvement, and cultivate compassion and empathy for others. As a result, Ramadan becomes a transformative period for the Ummah Muhammad, allowing them to strengthen their faith and commitment to their spiritual journey.
Fascinating. Thanks for the quick summary. Let's move on to the deep dive with Jack and Wilson. Hey everyone, before we get started, I noticed in my YouTube channel analytics that many of you watching aren't subscribed. If you could do me a big favor and hit that subscribe button, I'd really appreciate it. It motivates me and helps the channel grow, so I can create more videos like the one you're about to see. Also, as some of you requested, my team has launched a website where you can read my books and find transcripts of all my videos in the form of small booklets. The link is in video description. We're working hard to produce informative videos daily, along with books and transcripts. I'd love your help in spreading dawah, calling to Allah's message. Please click the join button to show your support. Now, let's dive in.
Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive with us. Today we're going to be looking at something a little different. We're not going to be doing our usual stack of research articles and papers and stuff. We're actually going to be looking at a YouTube video.
Oh, wow.
Called The Hidden Blessings of Ramadan. Make it easier this time. And it's from a channel called Religious Story TV. And it really kind of promises to go beyond the surface level, rituals of Ramadan and give some historical and even scientific insights. To be honest, I had no idea how much was really, under the surface.
It's really amazing how much depth there is to this topic. This video uses a storytelling approach, and I think that really helps bring those hidden dimensions to light.
Yeah, one of the first things that really stood out to me was how the video talks about the start of Ramadan as this huge cosmic event. Like, it's not just a date on the calendar. It's like the whole universe shifts gears or something.
Yeah. Are you talking like the imagery of the gates of paradise opening and the gates of hell closing and all the rebellious devils being chained up?
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty intense. And it even talks about specific angels like Ridwan preparing paradise and Malik closing the gates of hell. It makes you wonder if there's something we're supposed to be like tapping into there,
I think it definitely paints a picture of Ramadan as like this really spiritually charged time, a time of, possibility.
Yeah.
And the video emphasizes Allah's mercy and forgiveness during this month. It's almost like a cosmic reset button.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, like a fresh start, which makes sense when you think about how Ramadan is a time for, reflection and self-improvement and all that. And speaking of, that aspect of it, the video talks about the history of fasting. And I was surprised to learn that it's not unique to Islam.
Oh, yeah. Not at all. Fasting has been practiced for centuries in so many cultures and religions, like Christians and Jews, Hindus, even ancient civilizations had their own versions of fasting. It seems like it's this really basic human impulse to deny ourselves something as a way to connect with something bigger.
So what is it about the Islamic practice of fasting then? What sets it apart?
Well, the video explains how Islamic fasting during Ramadan is all about disciplining what's called the nafs, which is like our lower self. It's that part of us that's driven by ego and desire and all these things. So it's about learning to control those impulses and become more open to spiritual growth.
I see. They even tell this story about Allah testing the nafs with fire and hunger to show how even the most stubborn part of us can be humbled through fasting.
Yeah.
That's a powerful image, really makes you think about what we might be able to overcome if we really commit to it,
And it's not just about willpower. The video actually gets into some really interesting science behind fasting and connects it to, believe it or not, dopamine.
Wait, dopamine? The feel-good chemical? I thought fasting was about deprivation, not pleasure.
Right. That's what's so fascinating. Our brains are wired to seek out, pleasure and reward. And today we're just constantly bombarded with stimulation. And that can actually lead to dopamine overload.
I can see that.
It makes it harder to find genuine satisfaction.
Oh, so fasting is like hitting the reset button on our brain's reward system.
Yeah, exactly. By depriving ourselves temporarily, we can actually increase our dopamine sensitivity. And that leads to this heightened sense of euphoria when we break the fast. It's like we're rediscovering the simple pleasures in life.
That makes sense. And the video also mentions that fasting can boost something called BDNF, which helps our brains to grow and stay healthy. So it's not just about feeling good, it's about protecting our minds long term.
Right.
But isn't there a downside to all this deprivation? Our bodies do need fuel.
That's a great point, and it's something we'll definitely come back to and explore the potential downsides of fasting. But for now, let's just focus on all the incredible positive things that can come from it. The video highlights this ripple effect that fasting can have on our well-being, benefiting not just our minds, but our bodies too.
Okay, so we're talking like total body and mind makeover. Tell me more. What are some of the benefits they talk about?
Well, the video mentions all sorts of potential benefits, from slowing down aging to even fighting cancer, giving the liver a break, improving digestion. It's really quite remarkable how something as simple as abstaining from food and drink can have such profound effects on our systems.
But hold on, if fasting is so amazing, then why isn't everyone doing it? There's got to be a catch.
That's a good question, and it's actually one that the video addresses. It doesn't shy away from the challenges, especially in today's world where we're so used to instant gratification. In fact, it tells this really thought-provoking story about the Prophet Muhammad receiving a vision of the world tempting him.
Oh yeah, I remember that part. The world predicts that it will eventually succeed in tempting future generations, right?
Exactly. And then the video contrasts this with the story of Abu Bakr, who was one of the Prophet's closest companions, known for his piety and simple lifestyle.
Right, and even he was deeply affected by the temptation of just a simple bowl of water during iftar. So if Abu Bakr, with all his devotion, could be affected this way, what does that mean for us?
It's a good point.
It's a real reality check.
It really highlights how challenging it can be to maintain that level of mindfulness and gratitude when we're constantly surrounded by abundance. And it raises an important question. How can we resist those temptations and stay connected to the deeper meaning of Ramadan, even when we're surrounded by so much?
This is already blowing my mind. We've gone from cosmic events to brain chemistry to really profound questions about human nature.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack.
And we're just getting started. What comes next is a story that might sound almost unbelievable at first, but it really speaks to the potential of fasting.
You're talking about the baby who fasted.
I cannot wait to hear your take on this one.
Oh, it's a good one.
But we'll save that for the next part. We got to take a quick break, and then we'll come back and dive into that incredible tale.
All right, I am still thinking about that story about Abu Bakr, Like, it's amazing how something as simple as a bowl of water can have such deep, spiritual significance. But now, let's get to the story you teased before the break. The baby who fasted.
Yeah, this is a really captivating story. The video describes this baby, like only a few months old, who refuses to drink milk from dawn till sunset during Ramadan.
Wait, baby. Fasting. That just seems impossible. Babies need to eat, like, constantly.
It does, right? And the mother is totally puzzled at first, but eventually she realizes that her baby is actually observing the fast.
Wow. It's a story that, it kind of stretches the bounds of believability a little bit.
It does.
But even if we just take it as a metaphor, I think it speaks to something really profound about, human nature, like about the potential for spiritual connection that's maybe within us from a very young age.
It makes you wonder, like, what was going on in that baby's mind? Was it like a conscious choice, or was it something more, intuitive, like an innate understanding of something sacred?
It's a question that goes way beyond any scientific explanation. And the video doesn't really delve into the psychology of it, but it focuses more on the spiritual implications.
Okay.
And this is where it gets really interesting. The baby in the story, he grows up to become Abd al-Qadir al-Jilani, a revered Sufi saint.
Wow, so the baby's fasting was like almost like a foreshadowing of his spiritual destiny. That adds a whole other layer to the story. It's like a testament to the transformative power of Ramadan.
Exactly. It kind of suggests that, the practices that we engage in during this month can ripple out throughout our lives, shaping who we become in really deep ways.
This whole video is honestly making me rethink how I approach Ramadan. I usually focus on the food aspect, like what am I going to eat for iftar? What new recipes can I try? But now I'm like, wait, there's so much more to it.
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in the rituals and traditions, but the real heart of Ramadan is inner transformation. It's about stepping back from all the business of life and reconnecting with our core values, our spirituality, and ultimately with ourselves.
It sounds like you're saying that Ramadan can be this really powerful tool for personal growth, even for people who aren't particularly religious.
Absolutely. Remember, the video highlighted how fasting has been practiced across cultures and religions for centuries.
Right.
So the benefits, self-discipline, mindfulness, connecting with something larger, those are all universal.
So it's not just about abstaining from food and drink. It's about cultivating this deeper awareness of our thoughts, our actions, our relationship with the world around us.
Right. And that awareness, it can affect all areas of our lives. How we treat each other, how we approach challenges. The video even suggests that the heightened empathy and compassion that we cultivate during Ramadan can contribute to a more just and equitable society.
Yeah, I'm seeing how the personal and the societal are really kind of interwoven here. It's not just about individual transformation, but about, creating a more compassionate and just world. But let's be real for a second. Maintaining that level of awareness and intention all year round, that's tough. So how do we take the insights from Ramadan and actually integrate them into our everyday lives?
That's the million-dollar question, right? The video doesn't give a step-by-step guide or anything, but it does offer some good food for thought. One idea that really resonated with me was the concept of Ramadan as a training ground.
A training ground? What do you mean?
Well, for developing habits and practices that can sustain us throughout the year, think of it like building spiritual muscle memory. So the discipline and self-awareness that we build up during Ramadan can actually become ingrained in our being, and it can make it easier to make conscious choices, even when we're not fasting.
So it's not about, trying to replicate Ramadan exactly, but more about carrying that spirit of mindfulness and intention with us all the time. But how do we do that practically? It's so easy to lose that focus once the month is over and we get back to all our routines and stuff.
You're right, it does take effort. But one practical suggestion from the video is to incorporate some form of intermittent fasting into our weekly routine.
So like skipping a meal or two each week.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It doesn't have to be as rigorous as the Ramadan fast, but even those small periods of abstaining from food can help us maintain that heightened awareness of our bodies and our relationship with food.
And that can help us make more, mindful choices about what we consume, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally too, right? It's like we're decluttering our inner space, just like we often declutter our homes during Ramadan.
Exactly. And speaking of decluttering, another practice we can take from Ramadan is that emphasis on gratitude.
Like taking time each day to appreciate the good things, even the small stuff.
Exactly. The video highlights how fasting can actually make us more aware of our blessings, those things we usually take for granted. It's about shifting our perspective and recognizing all the abundance that's already there.
And that's something we can do whether we're fasting or not. It's a really simple practice, but it can have a huge impact.
Yeah, it's about rewiring our brains to focus on the positive, even in the midst of challenges. And that's a skill that can benefit us in every area of life.
This conversation is making me realize that there is so much more to Ramadan than I ever really thought about. It's not just this, religious obligation. It's an opportunity for personal growth, for societal change, and even for scientific exploration.
And it's a journey that any of us can embark on, whatever our background or beliefs.
Yeah.
It's an invitation to push ourselves, challenge ourselves, and embrace the transformative power of this ancient practice.
It's mind-blowing, and I can't help but think back to that story about the baby who fasted. If a baby can tap into something that profound, what are we capable of?
Right. It's a powerful reminder that the potential for growth and transformation, it's in all of us.
Okay, so we've talked about how to keep that spirit of Ramadan alive throughout the year, but there's still this one question that's been nagging at me.
What's that?
We've focused so much on all the good stuff, all the benefits of fasting, but are there any downsides? Like, are there risks we should be aware of?
That's a really important question, and one that deserves a thoughtful answer. While fasting can be incredibly beneficial, it's not for everyone, and there are definitely potential drawbacks to be mindful of. We should explore that in the last part of our deep dive.
Yeah, you brought up a really good point at the end there about the downsides of fasting. It's important to acknowledge that while there are a ton of potential benefits, it's not like a magic bullet, and it might not be for everyone, you know?
Absolutely. Just like with any practice that changes your eating habits or your lifestyle, it's really important to approach fasting with some awareness and caution. It's not one size fits all.
Right. So what are some of the things that we need to watch out for? What kind of people should maybe avoid fasting completely?
Well, first off, anyone with a history of eating disorders should really steer clear of fasting. It can be really triggering and potentially dangerous for people who are struggling with these conditions. It's so important to prioritize mental and emotional health above any, perceived physical benefits.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What about people with certain medical conditions? Any red flags there?
Yes, definitely. Individuals with diabetes, for example, need to be extremely cautious with fasting because altering their eating patterns without careful medical supervision could really mess with their blood sugar levels, and that can be dangerous.
So talking to your doctor before starting any kind of fasting regimen is absolutely essential. It's not something to just, jump into without doing your research.
Exactly. And pregnant and breastfeeding women should also talk to their healthcare providers before fasting. Their nutritional needs are really specific, and it's so important to ensure, both their health and the well-being of the baby.
Okay, so we've talked about some of the folks who should avoid fasting. But even for those who are healthy and get the okay from their doctor, are there still potential downsides to, be aware of?
Yeah, even for healthy individuals, fasting can come with some side effects, especially when you're first starting out. Headaches, fatigue, dizziness, difficulty concentrating, those are all pretty common complaints, especially in that initial adjustment period.
So it's like our bodies need some time to, kind of adapt to this new way of eating.
Precisely. Our metabolism needs to adjust. But these side effects usually go away within a week or two as your body gets better at using its stored energy.
It's interesting you mentioned how fasting can improve our focus over time, but at first it can actually make it harder to concentrate.
That's right. It's almost like this short-term sacrifice for a long-term gain. The initial discomfort and brain fog, that's all temporary. But the potential benefits for things like cognitive function, mood regulation, even brain health, those can be pretty huge.
Yeah. Okay, so it's important to stick with it, and not get discouraged by those early challenges. But what about the social aspect? We were talking about how Ramadan is this time for community and sharing meals together. But fasting outside of that context, it can feel kind of isolating.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
It can be tricky to navigate social situations that revolve around food when you're fasting. It might take some, creativity and flexibility. But it's also a chance to educate other people about your choices and the reasons behind them.
Yeah, and maybe even inspire them to explore fasting for themselves.
Absolutely. It can be a really great way to start conversations and share knowledge. And at the end of the day, even if others don't completely get it or agree with you, it's about honoring your own needs and, respecting your body's wisdom.
As we've been talking about these potential downsides, it's almost like this reminder that fasting, just like anything else, should be approached with balance and moderation. It's not about pushing yourself to the limit or punishing your body.
I couldn't agree more. It's all about listening to your body, being aware of your limits, and finding what really works for you as an individual. The great thing about fasting is that it's so adaptable to different needs and situations. It's not this rigid, all-or-nothing practice.
This has been such an amazing deep dive. I feel like we've covered so much, the spiritual meaning of Ramadan, the science behind fasting, the benefits, and, how important it is to be aware of the risks.
What's so fascinating to me is how this video we watched brought all these seemingly different things together. religious beliefs, historical context, science, into a single understanding of fasting. It's not about just one thing, it's about all these elements working together.
And it's left me with so much to think about, not just for my own life, but also for, society in general. In a world that's so obsessed with instant gratification and excess and quick fixes, fasting feels almost radical.
Yeah, it is radical in a way. It's a conscious choice to step outside of the norm, to challenge what we think we know, and tap into a deeper sense of awareness and self-control.
And who knows, maybe in that space of, intentional deprivation, we discover something way more valuable than anything we could ever eat or drink.
That's a beautiful thought, and I think it really captures what this whole deep dive has been about. The real blessings of fasting, they aren't just about the physical stuff or even the spiritual stuff. It's about the potential for self-discovery, transformation, and connection that it opens up within us.
So as we wrap up here, I'm just left with this sense of, wonder and possibility. In a world that often feels so chaotic and overwhelming, could the discipline and intentionality of fasting be a path to greater peace and purpose and connection? Something tells me we've only scratched the surface. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Thank you for joining us for today's podcast. I hope you've gained some valuable insights. If you're a truth seeker, yearning for divine light and ready to step out of darkness, now is your moment. The truth is that Allah is the one and only creator of the universe. He has sent over 124,000 messengers and prophets to guide humanity, starting with Adam and culminating with the final messenger, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon them all. If you resonate with this message, you might be ready to embrace Islam. Simply recite the Shahada, the Islamic declaration of faith. For further support, feel free to join our WhatsApp group. You can send us a private message there. The link is in the video description. Don't wait until it's too late. We look forward to connecting with you soon.